welcome. You are watching QTV and you are watching The Week in Review. I'm your host, Ade Darami, and across the table from me, I have friend and colleague Mahmoud Mbodj. Mr. Mbodj, as ever, so boring. Welcome to the program.
Yes, maybe there's nothing wrong with boring. It's predictability.
Yes. And that's the only predictable thing about the show. Thank you. And here we have, doing the signing, we have Lamin D. Sonko. Now, anybody who's joining us for the first time, is called The Week in Review because we review some of the stories that we find particularly interesting from the week just gone by. What are those stories? Well, the president and his party, the NPP, have just welcomed into the fold some defectors from other parties, so they tell us. And in Brufut, the local community have just raised some money to build a beautiful maternity ward, which they've now handed over to the Ministry of Health. And Abdoulaye Sanyang, the former military officer who is still on trial, recently appeared in court and applied for bail to travel abroad for medical treatment, and that was denied. But lots more happened besides that. Also, victims of the former ex-president Yahya Jammeh, rather concerned, perturbed by some of the statements and utterances he made, particularly his claim that he was coming back to the Gambia this month. Yes, this November, I kid you not. And at the World Travel Market in London, one of the biggest, Gambia scooped a very, very prestigious award. Also, we go abroad. Amadi Doumbouya in Guinea, he's announced that he's going to contest the upcoming presidential elections. Very predictable. And we have a really heartwarming story. Some young men from Gambia have just signed for FC Copenhagen in Denmark. So these are some of the stories coming your way. Okay. Let's get things off and running, shall we? His Excellency the President and his NPP recently held a rally which was quite huge, and then they followed that up with an event where they said 800 people had defected from other political parties to join the NPP. Here's a flavour of what went down.
Under the banner Campaign Boka Halat, which translates as Group of Unified Thinking, hundreds of individuals claiming to be former members of opposition parties, including the UDP, PDOIS, Sobeya, GDC and PAP, formally joined the ruling National People's Party. The defection, facilitated through the support of the First Lady and National Women's Mobilizer Maimouna Baldé, brought together women leaders such as Sukay Jallow, a member of the Coalition of Progressive Gambia, and Aja Fantambalo, former vice chairperson of the 3 Years Jotna movement.
Changes as part of the 3 Years Jotna movement and the Coalition of Progressive Gambians as the chairperson, I have come to realize that our struggle for a better Gambia requires more than just activism. It demands active participation in shaping the system that governs us.
There we heard from some of the alleged defectors who actually identified themselves as having belonged, and some of them we knew that they belonged to certain either movements or political parties, but 800, it seems as if we're in the swing of the presidential election is a year away, but I think we already started. Dabo's arrival, big, countered by NPP with their own huge rally, and now this one where, and as I speak, UDP are having their own to welcome 500 defectors. Some wag said, are they defecting from UDP to UDP? But it seems as if election season has already started 12 months early.
Oh, absolutely. There's a run-up.
Yeah.
We can call it that. There's a run-up going on, yeah.
Sure.
And she said there, I think that was Aja Fantambala
from 3 Years
saying
Jotna.
From 3 Years Jotna, it's time to move away from activism to active participation in whatever. I thought that activism was a participation of some sort.
Right. I guess she means party political
stuff.
Yes,
so
yes.
this is interesting though. When I first saw the news, I was looking for some sort of like high-profile names.
I think we all were.
Weren't we?
I think we all were.
That's it. People who are sort of headline-grabbing names and
I'll tell you the cynical view that came up in the office after you've done.
Absolutely.
Yeah, quite.
None.
Yeah.
So maybe you looked at the number.
Yeah,
800.
Yeah.
Said, ooh, that could be interesting. Because I can envisage a situation where the voting is so tight that one can look back and sort
And
of make
say
some kind
numbers
of
might make a
superficially
difference. Yeah.
plausible claim that you see the 800 made a difference. So this is it, Ade. What was the political significance, sort of this?
Sure.
What happened here? In fact, the people who spoke, Ajafan Tambala, 3 years Jatna, well, after that campaign, well, they were not successful in the objective.
It fizzled out.
It fizzled out. Like, and when we say defection, maybe strictly speaking, maybe we're talking about from party to party. This wasn't a party.
I did mention the cynical view.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and the coalition of progressive
It was
Gambia, not a
regardless.
party
They're
at
not
all.
parties.
That sort of thing.
Sure.
Yeah. So now, what's going on here? So to me, and what electoral significance, what numbers can they bring, as it were, to the table? Because in the end, that's really what it is.
Sure.
In that sort of thing. So how significant was this?
Okay.
Was it simply a PR stunt?
Yeah.
Especially the woman who was with the Coalition of Progressive Gambia. What was was this sort of a disappointment with your group as it were to move on?
Right.
Or was it an opportunity with the NPP?
Yeah.
So there are just really so many questions, as it were, going on here.
The cynical person in the office said to me, those who allegedly belonged to all the political parties named, did they come to the meeting with their party cards to show that they were members of that political party? As you rightly said, we thought that given the prominence that it was afforded, that there were going to be some high-profile defections from established political parties, not just movements, not just activist movements, but political parties. They mentioned Sobeya, they mentioned UDP, PDOIS, and so on, but nobody came and brandished, this is my PDOIS card, I'm ripping it up, I'm now joining NPP. And as I said, that was the kind of cynical view. They said if we'd seen that from a high-profile person belonging to those parties, who that person has a certain number of people who would follow him or her, that would have made, otherwise it was just a photo op.
Absolutely. And for me, the other point, all these different parties across regions, who was coordinating it? You know what I mean?
Right.
I can understand sort of a group from UDP or PDOIS and stuff like that,
Yes.
but so many different parties.
Well, they had
it didn't form
They had
itself.
a kind of women's organizer who they said was part of the ones who
Maimuna
helped,
Balde,
that's
the
right,
mobilizer, the
mobilizer.
women's mobilizer, and
Yes.
Fatima Barra.
The
Absolutely.
First
So
Lady.
they must, the First Lady,
Yeah,
so
right.
they must have coordinated. It takes some coordination to get people from UDP, PDOIS, and even PAP and all of that
right.
from across regions and that sort of thing.
Sure.
Absolutely. You can do all of that. But to me, how I saw the whole thing, I thought, is this some kind of popularity perception index?
I think
As they say, I pushed it to that level.
Honestly,
you
I
know
think
what I mean?
that was the thing, because we've gotten used to people saying, certainly since I came to the Gambia, people saying, look at the crowd I was able to pull. And I've never seen one of those crowds where the person who has pulled the crowd has said to them, raise your voters' cards in the air so that I can see your voters' card, or raise your membership card of this party. They never do that. And that if they did that and hundreds or thousands did it, that would convince you. But otherwise, you just see people dressed in the colors of that particular party. And some of those people go and join the other lot when they come through their town or city or village, just for the ambience. It doesn't mean that you've pulled a crowd, but they seem to think that this seems to matter here. And I remember people arguing with me after the last election, UDP friends of mine, some of them watch this program regularly, saying to me, oh, we won. Didn't you see the crowds we pulled in the run-up to the election? I said, yeah, but you didn't ask those questions of that crowd. And unless you do that, then, it's just a bunch of people enjoying the vibes.
The nature of this country. You'll probably have the same people going to all these different political party rallies, as it were. It's just the way things are. And then, Ade, then we looked into it. The Coalition of Progressive Gambia. It was registered in 2022,
That's right.
September. By October, the Ministry of Justice revoked
Revoked there.
that registration.
Yeah.
How much does that play into this?
Yeah.
Aja Fantambalo, 3 years Jatna, evidently you lost
Yeah,
in the
quite.
objective.
Yeah, sure.
So afterwards, nobody heard much from that group. They call it a movement. I'm not sure how much of a movement it was. You had essentially become irrelevant. We've moved on from there. So I'll be very careful with stuff like this.
Yeah, sure.
I, as a sort of citizen, just ordinary citizen, what am I to make of it? Well, not much, even though one can understand from the party angle, this perception, to create the perception that people are coming onto your party and all of
hence
that.
the one organized on November the 8th by UDP, where they say 500 people will be
that's it. Well, we
crossing
all know,
the carpet, as it were.
we all know about the bandwagon effect.
Quite.
If there's a general perception that everybody's heading in this direction, then you have a lot of people who would also follow in that direction.
Exactly.
So one understands the politicking, as it were, being done. But how much significance am I going to give it? I do not know. Nobody can even guarantee that the 800 will vote for you in 2026.
That's the point,
So who was it that said that a week is a long time in politics? Much more so a year.
Thank you. I think that's a brilliant full stop to that. Thank you, Mr. Burge. And now onto a completely different story. We try and mix them up in the kind of the salad that makes up this program. And this one, Brufut community, they raised funds amongst themselves and from friends, both here and abroad, to actually build, fund and build a maternity ward, which they have now handed over to the Health Ministry. Yes, they really did. Have a look, have a listen.
Yes, our maternity at Brufut Health Center work under challenging conditions. We had a small labor room with 2 delivery beds and 7-bed ward that serve both antenatal and postnatal purposes for women. There were days we had to decide.
Grateful that we accomplished this project together.
Mamadou T. Nyasi, the Director of Health Services at the Ministry of Health, commended the Brufut Forward Foundation for their strong collaboration in expanding the maternity ward, describing it as a model of effective community government partnership.
Your collaborations demonstrate the power of partnership in achieving our shared goal, that is ensuring accessible, affordable and quality health care for all Gambians, especially women.
I apologize if the sound was a bit muffled there. He was talking about, the goals of, affordable health care for all Gambians. And also, I apologize, the first speaker was kind of cut off in her prime, because what she was about to go on to say was that as somebody who works in the health sector and works in sort of maternity ward, there were times when they had to discharge mothers earlier than the WHO recommended period because of lack of resources. And now she was welcoming this, embracing this wonderful initiative by the local community.
Absolutely, the first one, Rohisar,
that's
midwife.
Right. Yeah.
So, absolutely. So, and apparently, this Brufut Forward Foundation, linked to, there's a Forward Foundation Holland.
Holland, that's right. And some of the people were in the audience at this event.
Absolutely. How many communities will be served? I've heard about Tanje, Tranquil, all
because they've said
communities
they were at pains to say that even though it's here, it's not just for Brufut, that others from the surrounding area are welcome to come and use it, yes.
Absolutely. All good. All fine, great. This is really what we want. And you've got this community initiative angle. Fantastic idea. We all know that really in democratic societies, civil organizations really build democracy. We tend to feel that. We always go back to our government, not getting it. Absolutely, everything is fine. So now, we're told that it's been handed over. What does that mean?
Yes.
Was there any agreement between the ministry and the foundation, the group? Because obviously now staffing, maintenance, having the equipment, there's so much to do. How are they going to share? Is there any secting responsibilities? So the details, as they say, the devil in the details. Maybe we need to know.
But this is it, and just very quickly, I mean, we were involved in a similar initiative in Sierra Leone where we were responsible for the cancer ward. And we, the cancer charity, paid the nurses and doctors who worked in that ward, not the government. So we raised funds for that, and once people realize that. So it might be a similar model, but you're absolutely right to bring up that point, because that is the thing that people will, if they see this, they'll wonder, okay, it's been handed over. What are the terms under which it's been handed over? And you're going to monitor it. You're going to make sure that it's properly resourced, you know, going forward. Yeah.
That's it. And I also researched sort of the record, if you like, of these community-led initiatives, especially with clinics and that sort of thing. And I read somewhere they said most of them, a good number of them, between 3 and 5 years they fail.
Yes,
the
yes.
funding, the maintenance, and that sort of thing, that is the issue. So, but once you know your vulnerabilities, when you do your studies, for these reasons, these things fail, then what can I do to counter that? One would like to think that we've been thinking like that. We have seen so many, even not far from here, I'm not sure what's happened to it now. There was a clinic around Manjai, Latif Kunda, German. When it opened, I was living in the neighborhood. Admittedly, this was during Jamia's time. When it opened, people were using it. But afterwards, it was empty, grass growing everywhere, the decay, it doesn't move on. So once you understand vulnerabilities, then be proactive. What can we do so that it won't happen next time?
Mr. Mbowe, what you've just said will make me keep an even keener eye on this than I was going to anyway. But thank you for that. That's very, very pertinent points that you've raised there. Thank you. Thank you. And now story number 3. Abdoulaye Sanyang, a former military officer, gave an interview on West Coast Radio to Peter Gomez, and he ended up in rather hot water. What sort of hot water? In case you're new to the Gambia, he's ended up in court. Have a look, have a listen.
That the evidence confirms the availability of requisite facilities and medications within the country. Sanyang's bail application was therefore denied. August 2025, during a live broadcast of Coffee Time with Peter Gomez on West Coast Radio, Sanyang is accused of having made statements regarding the burning of APRC Bureau. Those and other comments allegedly made by the accused in that interview led to the charges he now faces.
There we heard Senabu Chow, our colleague there, essentially setting out the context of the case. The interview directly led to these charges. And Mr. Mbowe, there have been all sorts of debate. Is this the sort of thing that somebody could be charged with or for? Couldn't they just brush it off and say, look, this is just somebody talking out of his head? And a lot of expense is being sort of thrown at the case. Lots and lots of witnesses, a kind of prosecution witness, how many now? Endless number. But one of the things that came off, his lawyers applied for bail, for him to fly out of the country to Switzerland for treatment, something to do with his legs. But when the Judge Jaite looked at it, he thought, no, that treatment that you're seeking can be done here in the Gambia.
Absolutely.
And denied the bail.
In fact, too, he said either unconditional release or alternative, you know, go for that.
That's right.
So the exhibit, what, AS3, I suppose it was called.
That's right.
A medical report prepared by officer in charge of the medical unit.
That's right.
At mile 2.
That's right.
So that wasn't enough. You need proper medication, apparently.
That's what the
sort of medical certification.
Medical certification from
medical certification from wherever.
Yeah.
So, yes, this is it. Your application failed. Not going to be giving bail.
Well, this is it, and the trial has continued. And subsequent to this, in fact, I think the next day, they played in court the recording, and there was all the technicalities about how did you obtain the recording and so on, all that kind of boring stuff. But at the end of it, there wasn't much time to cross-examine him about it. The case was adjourned. Well, the case is ongoing, but as I said, in the lead up to it, it has sparked a lot of debate as to, you know, I guess now it's in court and it's in open court, people can discuss it. But, you know, there have been talk, well, you know, should this case even have proceeded? So I think that's kind of up in the air, really. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
How serious is it?
Yeah, the allegations.
The allegations and just the whole context of it all. He said he burnt down the APRC Bureau. For most of us at the time, when we heard it, we thought, oh, what a very good idea.
Yeah,
because of what was the rumor
yeah.
that was going on, voting cards, whatever they were going to distribute, and that sort of thing. That, obviously, we wanted to get rid of President Jammeh.
Yeah,
that sort of thing. So now this Sanyang, Mr. Sanyang, went on West Coast Radio, start saying all sorts of things, in many ways implicating himself. And you were telling me, Peter asked him, are you sure that
he's not going to get into
trouble for this? Yeah, nevertheless, he continued.
He carried on. Because that was his opportunity to stop and kind of rein in himself. And it's quite ironic because, you know, Peter asked him, as I said, directly, you know, aren't you going to get into trouble with the authorities for what you're claiming?
How serious is this? Does Mr. Sanyang really represent a clear and present danger? I think we should be thinking in broader terms so that we wouldn't be wasting our resources on certain things. Absolutely, would rather spend it in other areas. So for me, this is my worry. Maybe they have the evidence to show that the man presents a clear and present danger, and that's really what the test must be for these sort of prosecutions. So we really do not know. Some of us think that maybe this gentleman's got only few loose screws. No disrespect to the gentleman, but who would just go and implicate yourself?
Quite totally unprovoked as well.
Totally unprovoked. I don't know.
Thank you for that. I think that one's up in the air. Thank you. And now we just mentioned APRC, and connected to that, of course, former President Yahya Jammeh. And as is his wont these days, he sends out his audio tapes. Doesn't do many videotapes, you know. And this time he's quite definitive. He said he's returning to the Gambia in November 2025, which is where we find ourselves. And some people who are victims of his regime are not pleased about it, and they came out and they said so. Have a look and have a listen.
If he is to return, the law should take its course. I recommend he be prosecuted in another country for peace to reign in the Gambia. Why not prosecute him in Ghana? Because some Ghanaians were also victimized.
Others argue that the government's claim of lacking resources to prosecute ex-President Jammeh or implement the TRRC reparations and recommendations is unacceptable, noting that funds used for political rallies and presidential tours and other activities would have been directed towards implementing the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparation Commission's recommendations instead.
People's tour with universal jurisdiction processes that several others have also faced liability, and I believe it should be the same. It should not be selective. Once it is, then it is not going to be open, transparent. Accountability is only going to be for those whose face fits, whose face doesn't fit, and for those that do, they would be getting away with their crimes.
And then we heard Priscilla Yagu Cisse there talking about it, and at this event, as I said, so Women and Victims Empowerment, Women's Association for Women and Victims Empowerment, WAVE, organized this event, and you had people come out and say that they didn't want to even entertain the thought that he could come back and reside here scot-free. I did have one colleague say, after all, Jawara was allowed to come and live here unimpeded. And I said, I don't think we're talking about the same sort of accusations having been made against ex-President Jawara. But Mr. Mbog, ex-President Jammeh seems to be able to get our attention even when we don't want him to get our attention.
He's a bit like a master puppeteer.
Indeed.
As said, he's just pulling the strings. That's it. So you will give sort of superficial people the opportunity to come and start making this facile analogies. Who on earth would ever make the analogy between what Jammeh did and what Sadaura Kairaba Jawara did? So they're just sort of being provocative and being silly, to be quite honest with you. So this is it. Jammeh, we've seen this in the past, decided to release this video.
Audios.
That's it, given the current social media, the ecology, that's it. He can manipulate the ecology. Just as what Trump does, isn't it? They are doing it now. So, and then here, well, you have, I don't know, sorry to say this, but you have a lot of people getting exercised by this, not realizing that this man still wants to remain relevant.
Yeah, quite.
Really.
And this is his way of doing so.
This is one way of doing so.
Sure.
So we will all talk about it. We will all start getting anxious and all the rest of it. And to my mind, this is much bigger than Gambia. Switzerland prosecuted Sonko.
That's right.
That had nothing to do with Gambia.
Yeah, quite.
Really?
Yeah, quite.
In Germany, and what happened in the US.
Germany by law.
And
Korea in the US.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In fact, I was asking them, I said, is there a direct flight from Equatorial Guinea to the Gambia?
Currently not, no.
Currently not. You're going to have to make stopovers along the way.
Somewhere, yeah.
Anybody can come and enforce universal jurisdiction.
As happened with Charles Taylor.
That's what happened, that's it. So nobody really needs that.
Yeah, quite.
You know what I mean? So when you look at the practicalities and the politics of it, you realize that, oh my God, maybe the media, we are partly responsible. We are giving him that oxygen of publicity.
Absolutely.
That's all it is.
Absolutely.
His only relevance, when are we going to prosecute him?
That's it. And that's what these people are calling for. Thank you for that, Mr. Mboj. That takes us to story number 5, and it could not be any more different. I've attended about 10 or a dozen of the World Travel Market events at the Excel Centre in London, and usually I always go under the, my press badge says Gambia, just because the Gambia Tourist Board were very nice to me and they started giving me accreditation to attend. This year, as usual, the Gambia was there, but this year they scooped a big award. I won't spoil it for you. Have a look, have a listen.
Gambia has been a regular exhibitor at the event dating back to the 1990s. This year, the Gambia delegation, including representatives from the Gambia Tourism Board, the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture,
and our colleague Lolly M. Camara there. Mr. Mboj, as Lolly was saying there, we've been regular attendees to this, and this time the award was for the best Africa stand design. And if you haven't been to it before, the big countries, Tunisia, Kenya, Algeria, Egypt, they put a lot of money into their design every year. So for the Gambia to scoop the award ahead of all of those is quite something.
Absolutely. We were praised for the vibrant and inviting design, isn't it?
That's
which encapsulated, it is said, our culture, the hospitality, the natural beauty, and all the rest of it.
Right.
Absolutely. I reveled in that. All the people were asking, how would that turn into tourist coming?
Numbers.
I'm like, let's be careful here. These
but
people were meant to do a certain thing.
They did it.
They did it so well. They surpassed their rivals.
Of course.
That in itself, I have to appreciate that.
Yes.
The processes that would move from that to increasing numbers, the campaigns being targeted or not. What do you do afterwards? That's quite another thing. But at the very least, people who had never heard about us, with this news, you might do.
I'll give you an example, because I engaged with one Jamaican fellow on Facebook, and he said rather sniffily, so you've won an award, we get 5.5 million tourists a year, how many do you get? And I said, well, we got your attention. The fact that you're commenting on this, others will also, we've also got the attention of other people, and they'll also comment, and some of them will say, oh, this place that won this award, maybe I should check it out. I said, so, you've shot yourself in the foot there. And that's the thing. As you said, they were asked to do something, design. They designed it beautifully enough and, kind of imaginatively enough to win this award.
The media amplification.
Well, that's
really what it is.
That's right.
So how many maybe new tour operators say, well, this is interesting. Let's look into that.
Let's check out this place.
Let's look at this place. Even you might have, I do not know, investors. It's never occurred to them. But because of that, say, let me just look at this place. So there might be direct or indirect, indirect, possibly, sort of benefits from this. You just don't know. But what you were sent to do, you've done it well. Congratulations.
As I said, and Well, congratulations to the GT board, and we hope this does translate into other things.
Absolutely. Eventually, recognition, media amplification, then afterwards, you know what I mean, the intermediate term, more tourist numbers.
Yeah, quite.
But that's what economists call the lag effect, isn't it?
Yes,
you know, have whatever rules, how long would it take for one to see the effect of that? One shouldn't expect it immediately. It doesn't work like that.
It doesn't.
Even though if it happens,
bravo.
Bravo.
But for that, we congratulate them. And that takes us to the midway point in terms of stories. And we'll take a commercial break. And after the commercial break, we will return with 5 cracking stories. So do not go away. Join us after the break.
QCell brings you the future with our ultimate bundles. Enjoy the best voice and data bundle plans in one package. Get unlimited data packages with flexible validity and enjoy what true internet feels like. Get 30 minutes of on-net and off-net calls with 5 gigabytes of data for just $350. Or get bigger bundle packages from 10 gigabytes to 20 gigabytes with over 100 on-net and off-net voice calls and enjoy the fastest internet speed in the Gambia. You can also buy 1-day, 3-day or even 7-day packages and enjoy unlimited data bundles with uncapped speeds. Just dial *343# today and experience the limitless capabilities of the QCell network. *343# should be your favorite code to dial now. For more information, call our customer care on 111. QCell. We innovate, others follow.
Hello and welcome back. You are watching QTV and you are still watching the Week in Review. And as I was in the first half, I'm still Adi Darami. And across the table from me, I still have Mahmoud Mboj. Mr. Mboj, thank you for remaining there.
Well, in the world of AI now.
Well, this is it. And we have Lamin D. Sonko definitely doing the signing, not some AI-generated individual. But thank you for staying with us. And if you're just joining us, then thank you for joining us at this point. But also, you've missed 5 cracking stories. But we have 5 really good ones still to go, including this one, which is something that is very much something that I'm interested in. The Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy recently held a 2-day session where they validated the phase 1 of deliverables around the cybersecurity and critical information infrastructure. Have a look, have a listen.
A robust cybersecurity infrastructure safeguards everything from personal customer information and intellectual property to the critical infrastructure that supports a modern society, like power grids and communication networks. The key deliverables validated during these sessions included the National Critical Information Infrastructure Protection Policy, CIIP, the National CIIP regulations, the Regulation on Critical Information Risk Management, and the Continuous Risk Assessment Guideline Report. These instruments form the backbone of the Gambia's national cybersecurity resilience and infrastructure protection strategy.
The ransomware attacks of our financial institutions in the past, the exploitation of digital platforms to defraud citizens, the hijacking of people's social media accounts, and the impersonation of people who are just so innocent of what the perpetrators claim. These are warnings, and our response must be strategic, coordinated, unwavering, and firm.
Strategic, coordinated, unwavering, and firm. Nice, bold words there. And what we're talking about is critical infrastructure, the financial sector and financial transactions as we go towards, this is important because we're trying to get more towards digitization and digitalization.
Both processes.
Both.
Yes.
And so we do a lot of transactions online, and so that's why something like this is extremely important.
Absolutely. And sort of the different areas, it tries to become comprehensive, as I sort of understand it. You've got the National Critical Information Infrastructure Protection Policy, which lays out the legal and strategic, as it were, framework. Then you also have what they call the National CIIP regulations, as it were, the enforceable rules and compliance obligations of stakeholders and the like. And there was even the Regulation on Critical Information Risk Management, which also comes with risk identification, mitigation, reporting. So yes, in that sense, we're really laying the ground in many ways to move on. But as experts would sort of remind us, validation it's a policy milestone.
Indeed.
We are still at that policy level.
Absolutely.
As important as that is, that's the preliminary, as it were,
sure.
ground, yet the real difference would come in the enforcement.
Yes,
and
it is in the enforcement. And I didn't want to pour too much cold water on this, but I referred my colleagues when we were discussing it after they came back from the program, and they were all excited. I said, we have an Access to Information Act, which has been made flesh, and yet none of us know a single person who has made an application and received a response under that act, even though it's 2.5, almost 3 years old now. So let's not get carried away with, as you say, validation. It's just a step, and it's fine that we've kind of given it some scrutiny and validated it, but implementation is, that's where, the proof of the pudding is in the eating.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Implementation, resources, the funding.
Particularly resources.
Yes, every implementation really implies resources. You need the resources to implement, and then the accountability aspects, collaboration between different stakeholders and the like. So this is the key. When we say these things, we do not want to take away from your achievement. It's just that we want to adjust the lens.
That's right.
To realize that this is just the first step.
And keep our sort of in check, expectations in check. When I want to build a house, I can make the blocks, but I haven't really started building. The design and how it goes. Yeah, I haven't really started building. So here what I'm doing is really I'm just building the blocks. That's right. Yes.
But that's not quite the same thing as starting to build a house.
Yeah, indeed.
I need that
right.
tool, that essential tool to build a house. So that's where we are.
And that's where we are. And let's hope that we build firm and strong. Thank you for that, Mr. Ambuch. Story number 7. Immigration Department recently had an update where they called the media to update them on various sort of goings and comings, including lots and lots of interceptions of all sorts of folks, including irregular migrants, people traffickers. I won't spoil it for you. Have a look, have a listen.
Out of the number that we have intercepted, which included 2,041 migrants over the course of this year, from January down to November today, GID was able to intercept 2,041 migrants that were taking the migration route within the country. Some of them use the country as a transit point, others who are recruited in the Gambia here to also undertake this particular journey. And out of this number, 1,693 are male, 348 of them are female, 77 of them are minors, and 21 of them are pregnant women.
One of the things that I've noticed since I came to the Gambia is that my Gambian friends, whenever something bad happens, they always say something close to, of course you realize most of them are not Gambians, but the statistics give the lie to that. A lot of the people who make or attempt to make this irregular journey are, but across West Africa, I spoke to some Sierra Leoneans who had been told that this was a good place to come, and in fact they were arrested, and I was contacted by the Immigration Department to speak to them. And that's how I got to know about it. And they said, oh yes, Sierra Leone, people tell you, oh, go to Gambia, it's a good setting off point. You go around the coast, Mauritania, and so on. So yes, that's the reality of it. We hear these figures. And what they also said is that there doesn't seem to be a kind of abating of this. It's still going on, and it might even be increasing.
Absolutely. And to reduce this to sort of like a national issue, not many Gambians, is to feel, to see the problem. It's a regional issue.
It really is.
Go to Senegal, the interceptions, you'll see Gambians, Guineans, really, you'll
go
see
to Mauritania.
Go to Mauritania, you have the same thing. So it's really a regional issue. When I say that, when people say that, oh, most of them are not Gambians, you really miss the point. That's not it. That's not what's going on. Okay, so what, 2,041 they said people they had. Then I asked the question, I wonder how many sort of escaped?
Yeah, how many got away?
How many got away?
Absolutely.
Because it makes a massive difference. We've been hearing of these interceptions, yes, all the time, and we laud them for that. Just to capture one person makes a huge difference.
And possibly save that person's life.
That person's life, that sort of thing, yes. But is it moving the needle?
That
Really?
is the question.
Are we having the kind of impact that we should be having in order to stem, as it were, this avalanche? I'm tempted to call it that.
Because I was trying to find the figures for the numbers of Gambians or people from the region who've successfully made. I couldn't find it before we came on air, sadly, because I wanted to have
difficult
that
to have stuff like that. Exactly. That's it, because for us to sort of gauge, to measure the impact of these sort of interceptions.
Quite.
Obviously, only individuals involved.
Quite.
Granted, yet you know that some of them will come back and try another time.
Well, indeed.
We've had so many of those, really. So, our policies, are they genuinely making that impact? Not merely for photo ops. We have to be grown up about this, and I'm going to say it. You know, we need to be sufficiently serious, not merely to want to appear to be doing the right thing by organizing these PR stunts. Some people might call it that. You know what I mean? So I'm not knocking it, but simply that let's be serious and really make a difference. Not these sort of occasional, if you like, scalps. You know what I mean?
Trotting out of figures.
Exactly.
And
so that's it. Let's be serious, and we're not playing games. But of course, we will laud them for this.
Yeah, sure. So well done to them for that. I thank you for that, Mr. Mboj. Story number 8 takes us outside of the Gambia, and this time not far to Guinea, as in Guinea-Conakry. And Mamadi Doumbouya, who's been building a sort of cult of personality over the last year or two, has made it plain that he intends to run in the upcoming presidential elections in Guinea. Have a look, have a listen.
TV station RTG had been showing large crowds insisting that Doumbouya should contest. The decision has provoked a mixed reaction across the region as skepticism over the credibility of next month's vote grows. Guinea is one of 4 West African nations under military rule, the others being Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger. In Guinea, 2 of the country's largest opposition parties, the RPG Arc-en-Ciel and the UFDG, have been barred from contesting the December election, fueling accusations that the playing field is being skewed in favor of the junta. When Doumbouya led the 2021 coup that toppled longtime President Alpha Condé, he had vowed to oversee a short transition and hand power back to civilians, famously saying, "Neither I nor any member of this transition will be a candidate for anything."
Mr. Mboj, we had to end with that. Why do they all say it when they take power? It's almost the playbook for coupists that neither I nor anybody of my of this Reformation Council, whatever, have interest in staying on, but they all end up staying on.
So that was the line. Taking my notes. That was the first thing I had to write. That neither I nor any member of this transition will be a candidate for anything.
Yeah.
But we all knew.
Yeah.
That was just rhetorical to get through the moment.
Well, this is it.
Tomorrow is another day. This is very interesting. Didn't he sort of earlier this year say that he wasn't...
Put out a press release. I'm no longer chairman of the Reformation Council. I'm president of the Republic.
President or whatever. Refer to my wife
as First Lady from now on.
Oh, shameless.
I know.
Where is the radicalism in that?
Well, this is it. And I, for those who might think this is boring, I follow him on social media. So on Facebook and on YouTube, he posts stuff almost every day. And I think we had been building towards this when his Simandu 2040 project would be featured every other day. So every 2 days there'd be a new video about all these mega infrastructure projects. And then towards the beginning of this year, January, February, he started adding a line at the end of each presentation saying, "I want the Guinean people to know that this infrastructure has my personal imprint on it." And I think we knew then that he was going to contest, even though he hadn't said it then. And there we are.
And the main opposition barred.
Yeah.
Where have we seen that recently?
That's it, you know.
Cote
d'Ivoire, and also Samia Suluhu barred the opposition.
This is
and Cameroon as well, actually. So it's a kind of playbook that's happening across. But every time these chaps get into power, they enjoy the fruits of the power, and the words that they said, of course famous in the Gambia, of course, Yahya Jammeh said exactly the same at the first proper press conference that he gave after they overthrew Dara Jawara. But they all say it.
They all say the same thing.
You know.
And here as well, just as they sort of barred the main opposition, as it were, people like Alpha Conde, Selou Jallow, and you've got Sidia Touré, they're all in exile. And
that's right, they dare not set foot back in the country.
And you're the one really often telling us how their online presence so vibrant.
It's remarkable.
Remarkable, isn't it? Then you immediately think, politics as show business.
It is.
Essentially show business.
And you mentioned Trump. You mentioned Trump earlier, and I think they're also taking a leaf out of Trump's book.
Yes.
You know, again, when we were discussing Trump in the office, I said, for the longest time, since kind of social media became a thing, I don't know of any president of any country who has managed to go and be in the news every day, as in the way that Trump has. He's either posting stuff on social media that gets people talking, or he's giving some outlandish thing, I'm going to go all guns blazing into Nigeria and all that kind of nonsense. He's there every day. In the case of Doumbouya, famously, I mentioned, one of the ones I mentioned is that his YouTube channel is really slick. And so when he goes jogging in the mornings, he has a 4-person camera crew so they can capture him from every angle. I mean, the vanity of it. So that had already kind of led us to think this chap is not about to stand down, because how do you stand down from that and return to the barracks after all of that? And so now, of course, it's almost inevitable. And of course, when they had the referendum about a new constitution or not a new constitution, rather oddly, it also had the question, should I be allowed to contest? Of course, 91% said, yes, you should be allowed to contest. I mean, come on. You know, what else was he expecting? Of course, he was expecting that.
Well, of course, you know how it is. It just depends on who is in power for today.
That's it. You know?
This sort of thing. So they're building a kind of personality cult. And at first they tend to get away with these things. I always remember what Churchill's line, so Winston Churchill, the biggest argument, as it were, against democracy is a 5 minutes conversation with your average voter.
This is it.
We all think that we are smart and all the rest of it, not realizing how we are sort of taken for a ride so many times by these people who come into power. You're suffering it the whole time. So this is it. We've entered that phase now. Coups are sort of becoming fashionable
in West Africa,
in West Africa right now. And we are facing jihadist insurgency that is gaining ground all the time. So in the longer term, I have to be honest with you, I'm really very fearful. Even for Gambia, we might seem sort of shielded, isolated, but we've seen what's happening in Mali, the border with Senegal, what would happen there. So it's really very serious, and the people are really very worried. Civil governance, civil politics. You know what I mean? It's not really delivering.
Well, this is it.
So we see these people as saviors.
Because every time they've come in those 3 countries, you know, Niger, Burkina Faso and Mali, they said that we will deal with the jihadist threat, and people took to the streets celebrating and dancing, saying, oh, this is the military, they'll do it. But none of them have been able to do it.
What's happening in Bamako recently? That blockade. You see how they are suffering.
That's it.
The army, they can't do much about it. So this is the reality. Though you hear a lot of people sort of supporting them, as it were, without really looking at the facts, be realistic, as it were. So, they're doing this, they're doing that.
They're all good at PR.
They're all good at PR. And a lot of people fall for that. But the dangers we face, we really need serious people. Right now in the Gambia, we can think that we are safe. And it might look like that for today, but you just never know. A lot of security experts are very, very worried about West Africa with these movements. We don't seem to be doing much. We've kicked the French out. Fine, kick everybody out. What can you do? I'm not so sure about that.
What can you do? And of course, we're not helped by porous borders. Well, thank you for that, Mr. Mboch. And story number 9, penultimate story, very different one, but it's still to do with conflict. South Africans have found themselves stranded many miles away from home. Where? Well, in the Donbass region, caught up in the Russia-Ukraine war, or special military operation, as Putin insists on calling it. Have a look, have a listen.
Officials say efforts are underway to bring them home through diplomatic channels. Their plight highlights growing concerns about African nationals being drawn into foreign conflicts. With high unemployment rates and limited opportunities, young Africans are increasingly targeted by networks linked to military or mercenary groups, including Russia's African Corps, which has expanded its influence across the continent. Analysts warn that both sides in the war have tried to recruit foreign nationals from Africa to Asia as the conflict drags on.
Conflict drags on. It's coming up for 3 years now. It was meant to be a quick surgical thing by Putin. Hasn't quite worked out that way. But the bit there about the fact that, you know, people who are kind of disillusioned and not employed are tempted by this. We've seen it in other aspects in some of the Arab countries where we had these horrendous tales of how people are treated, particularly women who go there to do domestic work. But it doesn't stop the flood of people trying to go to these countries thinking, my experience will be different. So anybody going to, I was quite intrigued when I saw in the Fuller report on the BBC, they'd spoken to somebody whose family member was stranded there, saying he had no idea that this was a war zone. I thought, no, come on. Where has he been? Under a rock? Everybody knows it's a war zone. But they said they were told, you know, you'll be okay. And they went, allegedly. But now they're stranded and they're hoping the government can price them out somehow.
Yes. Economic vulnerability being weaponized. In international conflicts.
This is it.
I mean, we've always had that, haven't we?
Really? Quite.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So this is it.
Yeah.
Do we have any mechanisms to protect these people? What are we doing? Yes, South Africa have sort of ordered an investigation. President Ramaphosa ordered an investigation into this.
Sure.
But over the so many months now, we've been following these stories, covering them in our African News Roundup.
That's right.
So many parents complaining the people, their children are being used as mercenaries. They become mercenaries in this war.
Sure.
So this is the problem we have. The economic vulnerability, it is what's driving the back way.
The back way, the irregular migration.
That's it. Yeah. So you will have people who would volunteer for these things. It doesn't matter what we say.
Sure.
So maybe with the state intervention, you might help to save them from themselves, as it were.
Yeah.
But how confident are we that you're going to have that help, as it were, from the state?
Yeah, she'll save that lot, but will you save the next lot?
That's it.
But thank you, Mr. Mboj. That takes us to our final story, and I think we have about 3 minutes, and which is more than enough. Many young men play football, and many young men play football and dream that those football dreams will take them to the much wider stage. That has certainly happened recently for 2 young Gambian men, including one that we had a particular interest in. Have a look, have a listen.
They now finish summer camp so that we can prove we want to be a professional.
That was 11-year-old Sheikh Jao speaking about his football dreams back in 2018 during the Q City Academy Sports Summer Camp. Since then, he has graduated from the academy, played in Nawetan competitions, and joined league champions Real de Banjul 2 seasons ago. His impressive performances earned him a trial with FC Copenhagen, who eventually signed him. Sheikh Jao will join the Danish Giants in January 2026, taking a major step towards fulfilling his dream of becoming a professional footballer.
There we had it, Mr. Mboj. Many young men of his age would have had that dream, including many young men who were part of that academy. And a couple of them have actually gone on to sort of, you know, as it were, bigger things, including now, you know, as I speak, I think FC Copenhagen are 4th in the top league in Denmark. And yeah, it's a great story.
Absolutely. And I suspect that the reason why we interviewed him in 2018, I think, was because he was a star.
He stood out.
He stood out. People could see something like that.
Absolutely.
From Neman Nasir, who I've read, to FC Copenhagen.
That's right.
But this is it. two things. For a long time, though, we've had a relationship with Denmark, Danish teams, when it comes to football.
Indeed.
I think even didn't Beatty play in Denmark? He played there for the team. Can't remember the team now.
Right.
And I've known a few people with Ibusila, I think did, Aziz Kaur.
Right.
And I met somebody who was into football, who had recruited them.
Oh, is that right?
Absolutely. His restaurant, his called Cafe Denmark.
Of course, I know Cafe Denmark.
Exactly. So we've had this relationship. So this is it continuing. Fantastic.
Well, indeed,
Two real banjo players. One of them from Q City Academy. And going. So what does it tell you? How would it inspire others? How important this academy is, something like Q City Football Academy are. So it's all good news all round.
And I thought rather like the award for the at the World Travel Market, the fact that other European clubs will say, oh, FC Denmark, FC Copenhagen, they signed 2 guys from Gambia. Let's check out Gambia. So others who have that dream here in the Gambia might also be hopeful.
Exactly. This is really what you need. Once you've made headlines, news and all that, you just never know. You never know how far
the ripples.
That's the impact, the ripples. Absolutely, that's the term for it. Maybe what we worry about is negotiations. Hope that they're fair, they're not being exploited and stuff like that. But, you know, and that's it. And of course, we've got our #1 export so far. Yankuba Minte at Brighton. Just never know, huh?
You never know. They could be the next Minte.
Exactly.
Thank you, Mr. Mboja.
And the other one, Mustafa Nyasi, of course. We forgot to mention him. The other player
also
Mustafa Nyasi. Absolutely.
Right.
Congratulations to both of them,
Congratulations.
obviously. Good luck.
Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Mboja. Thank you, Lamine D. Sonko. And of course, thank you, the viewers, for watching. Until we come your way again next week. Goodbye.